All right, so if you just closed your first AI consulting client, congratulations, seriously. That's the hardest part. But please do me a favor. Don't open N8N yet. Don't open Claude Code. Don't start building anything. Because here's the thing that nobody tells you. Most first projects don't fall apart because of bad automation. They fall apart before you even write a single line in Claude Code. And there's one specific moment in every project where it either goes smooth or turns into a nightmare. And I'll tell you exactly where this moment is later in the video and how to handle it when you get there. Now, I am not trying to scare you, but I've watched a lot of new consultants close their first deal, get all excited, dive straight into building, and then 3 weeks later they're stressed out, the client's frustrated, and they're working at midnight trying to figure out why things don't connect the way that they should. I help builders and freelancers turn what they already know into an AI consulting business. And in this video, I'm going to walk you through the 5 things that you need to lock in before you start building anything, so that your project actually runs the way that it's supposed to. And if you want to land your first or next AI client, you can take part in the 4-week challenge inside of my free school community of like-minded people, where you'll find a free course that's honestly better than most paid courses out there, and you'll get direct one-on-one access to me for whatever questions you might have. The link is down below. All right, now let's dive in. So here's what I see happen over and over again. A new consultant closes the deal. They're pumped. They send the invoice, the money hits their account, and the very next thing that they do is open their automation tool and start building. And they build based on how the client explained the process on the sales call, which sounds totally reasonable, right? The client just spent 45 minutes telling you exactly how their business works. Why wouldn't you just go build it? Here's why. What the client thinks happens in their business and what actually happens in their business are almost never the same thing. And you don't find that out until halfway through the build, and suddenly nothing connects, and you're sitting there at 11 p.m. trying to figure out why the lead from their CRM isn't matching up to the calendar booking, because surprise, there's a step that nobody mentioned where somebody manually copies the address into the spreadsheet. So you build it once, and then you build it again, and maybe again after that. And honestly, if you think you already understand their process from one sales call, that's usually exactly where things start going wrong. So before you touch anything, you need these 5 things locked in. Let me walk you through them. Number 1, before you build anything, get the client to walk through the process with you live, step by step. Screen share, the whole thing. Not a summary, not a Loom they recorded last month, the actual real flow. You want to sit there and say, okay, a lead comes in, show me. Where does it land? Who sees it first? What do they do with it? And then what? And then what? And what you're going to find when you do this is wild. You're going to see steps that never came up on the sales call. Choices that depend on whether a lead came in on a Tuesday versus a Saturday. Tools that they completely forgot that they were even using. There's almost always some little spreadsheet or some random Slack channel that's somehow load-bearing for the entire operation. And that's where builds break. Not in the automation logic, in the assumptions that you made because nobody told you the full story. And listen, I learned this one the hard way. Back when I was working in marketing for an insulation company, I built an email automation. I thought I understood the workflow. I'd been at the company for a while. I'd seen how the leads came in, how they got followed up with. I knew the process. So I sent a campaign to 200 insulation companies using the system that I built, and it just failed across the board because there were pieces of the workflow happening in the background that I had no visibility into, stuff that people were doing manually that I didn't even know existed. And when my automation hit, it didn't fit into the actual process. It fit into the version of the process that I had in my head. And that cost me 200 prospects. So please, learn from my expensive mistake. Live walkthrough before anything else. Okay, number 2, and this one's huge. Before you start, you ask the client one question, and then you stop talking. And that question is, finish this sentence for me. The project is complete when blank. Then you shut up. You let them answer. You don't fill in the silence. You don't help them along. You wait. Whatever they say is what they're going to expect at the end of the project. So you want it coming out of their mouth, not yours. Because here's what happens if you define done yourself. The client smiles and nods and agrees with you on the call, and then 3 weeks later when you deliver, suddenly there are all these other things that they thought were included, and now you're stuck. You either do the extra work for free and feel resentful about it, or you push back and risk your first testimonial. Neither one feels good. Here's what you do instead. You ask them to define done. They give you the answer. You write it down word for word, and then you send it back to them in writing in an email. And you say something like, hey, just confirming what we discussed. The project is complete when X, Y, and Z. Sound right? Now you have it on paper. Now you both know what you're building toward, and anything outside of that is a separate project, with a separate scope and probably a separate invoice. That alone will save you so many headaches. But there's something else that catches new consultants completely off guard, and I see it derail projects all the time. So number 3, before you write a single line of automation, you need to make a list of every tool that's involved in the workflow. CRM, email platform, calendar, website, payment processor, phone system, every single thing connected to what you're building. And then for each one you ask, do you have full admin access for this? Not partial access, not kind of access, full admin access. Because I'm telling you, a lot of the time they don't. And they don't even know that they don't. The login's missing. The account was set up 5 years ago by an old employee who's no longer there. The previous agency owns the domain. Someone's husband's cousin set up the CRM, and only he has the API keys. I have seen all of this, and the absolute worst time to find out about this is when you're halfway through the build and suddenly you need access. Because once you hit that wall, everything stops. Your build pauses. The client has to go figure out who has the password, send emails, and wait for responses. And meanwhile, you're just sitting there, not making progress, and the timeline that you promised is slipping. So you handle this on day 1. Right after they sign the agreement, before you even kick off the project, you send a checklist. Here's every tool. Here's what kind of access I need. Here's what I need you to verify before our first build session. I'll even tell you what I do. I have a Google Doc that lists every common tool, what level of access I need, and a checkbox next to each one. The client fills it out. If something's missing, we find out now while the project hasn't even started yet, instead of 3 weeks in. Once that's done, it really does feel like everything should be running smoothly from there. But this is exactly where most people get caught off guard. And this is the moment that I mentioned at the start of the video. Projects either go smooth or turn into a nightmare. Number 4, and this is the one. This is the moment I was talking about at the beginning. Before you plan anything, you have to ask, what happens after my automation runs? Because here's the thing, your system doesn't end the process. It passes something forward, something to a human or another tool or another team. After the lead comes in, what happens? After the appointment gets booked, who confirms it? After the message goes out, who's checking the replies? Let me give you a real example. Let's say you build a beautiful AI voice agent that qualifies leads and books appointments directly on the business owner's calendar. Perfect, works flawlessly. But nobody actually told the owner that he needs to look at his calendar in the morning. So leads are showing up, getting booked, and then nobody's there to take the call. From the client's perspective, your system is broken, even though your system worked perfectly. Or your system sends a really nice email asking the prospect to confirm their appointment time, and the prospect replies, and nobody's checking that inbox. 2 days later, that lead's gone cold. Your system did its job, the business didn't. This is where new consultants get blindsided. You did everything right. The automation runs perfectly, and yet the client is unhappy. So you have to map the whole chain, not just your part. You ask, what does somebody do with this output? Who's responsible? When are they checking it? And if there's a gap, if no one is owning what happens after the automation, you flag it. You either fix it inside the scope, or you tell the client clearly, hey, my system stops here. For this to work end to end, here's what someone on your team needs to be doing. That conversation before you build will save your reputation. Honestly, this is one of the hardest lessons I learned in my first year of consulting, that the build is only one piece of what makes the project successful to the business owner. And once you've got all this nailed down, there's one more thing you can do that takes the project from one and done into something much bigger. Okay, number 5, and this is the one that most people skip, but this is probably the easiest money that you'll ever make in your business. Near the end of the project, not at the end, near the end, while you're still in the build, while everything's working and the client's happy, you bring this up casually. You say something like, hey, now that this is running, the next thing that I see most businesses like yours look at is X. Is that something you'd want to explore later? And then you leave it there. You don't pitch, you don't push, you just plant the seed. And I'm telling you, a huge percentage of clients will say yes, because they trust you now. You delivered, you showed up, you did what you said you would do. They'd much rather keep working with you than start over with somebody brand new. So now your next project is already lined up before this one even closes. No proposal to write from scratch, no discovery call to redo. You already know their business, you already know their team, and you already have the access. You can just keep going. And this is how you stop being stuck on the hamster wheel of constantly chasing new clients. Most new consultants land a project, finish it, and then they're back at zero, back to cold outreach, back to wondering where their next client is coming from. That's the cycle that keeps people stuck at $1,500 projects forever, and you don't have to do that. One good project handled the right way can turn into 2 or 3, and eventually into a recurring retainer. Now I know what some of you are thinking, Lindsay, this all sounds great, but I haven't even landed that first client yet. I'm watching this video trying to figure out how to get one. And I hear you, because honestly, that was me a year ago. I was making 50 grand a year doing marketing for an insulation company. My boss mentioned ChatGPT and I had never used it before, which is cringe, I know. But I went down the rabbit hole, I found mentors, learned the technical stuff, and more importantly, learned how to actually turn it into income. And in 9 months, I had made over $100,000. $6,000 projects, and $5,000 monthly retainers. But here's the thing, even if you haven't landed a client yet, watching this video is exactly what you should be doing, because the consultants who succeed long-term are the ones who start thinking about what they should be delivering before they're delivering it. The ones who just chase the close and then figure out the rest later, they land one client, mess it up, lose the testimonial, and end up worse than before they started. So save this. Take notes. When you do land that first one, and you will, come back to this list. Okay, so real quick, let's recap. Before you start any AI consulting project, 1, get a live walkthrough of the actual process. Don't trust the sales call summary. 2, make them define what done looks like, then put that in writing. 3, get full admin access to every tool you'll need on day 1. 4, ask what happens after the automation runs, because that's the moment when most projects get marked as broken, even though they're not. 5, bring up what comes next before the project ends. Plant the seed for the next engagement. Most people skip these. That's why their first project gets messy, the testimonial doesn't come through, and they end up doubting whether or not they're cut out for this. You don't have to be one of those people. And if you want to land your first or next AI client, you can take part in the 4-week challenge inside my free school community of like-minded people, where you'll find a free course that's honestly better than most paid courses out there, and you'll get direct one-on-one access to me for whatever questions you might have. The link is down below. Thanks for watching, and I will see you in the next video.